Welcome back, everyone, to the Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain Red Sofa here in Bonn, where we're very pleased to be joined by Levent Yuksel, Freight Operations Director at JLR. Now, Levent, it's fair to say that sustainability and supply chain logistics is a passion for you. So this is not the first time we've been on this at this event talking about the topic, on the Red Sofa talking about it, but we're trying to push forward with action, and that's a real clear message that continues to come out. When you spoke to our audience earlier, you put as a headline a main message around industry collaboration and how that is really going to be key to scaling sustainable logistics. Where is it lacking and how can it improve?
I think in overall there is a lack of holistic and creative approach in general of how we approach this subject, and there is also leading itself a kind of gap in terms of coming up with good ideas. Maybe I can also highlight that there is a lack of drive and motivation as well. So this is generating this void in the overall system. So as you've heard about the presentation, that there are some patches of success, some small, bubbles of success, but when we look holistically, it's not happening still. So I think the key thing is to, yes, think in a broader scale, think in a creative way to how we can approach, because for me, logistics is a sea of opportunities, but it depends how we develop the right way, to smarter way to approach it. And I think that the best way, the most smarter way to approach to it is the collaboration.
I mean, clearly we're all in the same boat on this, and there needs to be an urgency, and people need to work together to drive that urgency. Let's talk at some of those bubbles of success. And one area that's came up a lot in the event, and you alluded to some trials as well, is implementing e-trucks in logistics. Certainly this is a technology that's exciting, zero emission, chance to make a big change. But we see time and again challenges in cost, challenges in scale. Where are you trying to accelerate this use of this equipment? And again, where do you think the industry can work better together to make it a success?
Yes, you just said it exactly perfectly well. When it comes to the EV trucks, the key thing is one, the initial investment, and the second thing is about the infrastructure. So then when we look into the ecosystem that we are operating in, and as I mentioned earlier on, that the cost competitiveness is so harsh in this current environment. So if we expect one party to lift it, it's so heavy. But when we divide it into manageable chunks between the stakeholders, then it is manageable. We can lift it. So what I'm thinking about is how can we bring our collective thinking together to make this business case work for each stakeholder. And one of the problem is that everybody is looking at each other to this thing to happen, to start. But actually, not one party, be it OEM or LSP or investors and etc. It won't happen by one party activity. So I think it's how we can understand that we can only work this through, given the climate that we are operating in, if we bring our forces and commitment and the ambition together to make it work. So I think that's the way forward.
Absolutely. And one area you make me think of is, of course, the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure. We see a bit of chicken and egg in the industry right now. The logistics providers aren't implementing or investing where they don't see the infrastructure, and maybe the infrastructure investors aren't investing where they don't see the volume of transport. Yeah. How can we break that impasse? What's a way that we can work together to make that?
That's a fair point, because if everybody continues to look at each other, it will not happen, and it won't happen because it is so big, as we spoke. The key thing is how we can step forward and look into this. For example, what I'm doing at the moment, we are doing at JLR is we are talking with the OEMs, which for the EV trucks. We are talking about the investors for the infrastructure, and we are talking about with the LSPs about the appetite, because it is multifaceted. Unless we visit each stakeholder, unless we make sure that each stakeholder is in the party, because if this ecosystem if one of the players is taking a backward step, it's not going to happen, because nobody can take all the burden on their side and everybody can benefit. That won't happen. So it is the point of, I say, these are my flaws. this is my flows and this is my density of activity. Or is it good for the infrastructure? And then, okay, if I have this many of traffic, does it make sense for you to invest in all those kind of things? When they come together, then there is a business case which everybody wins. That's where I want to get to.
I think it's also important, and this came up in our session and also in other sessions today or the event. We have to look at innovation in the network as well. We can't just look at how do I plug an e-truck into exactly the flow that I have right now.
Yep.
Well, what can we do to change it? Can we, I don't know, have different ways of drivers and with pickups and drop-off? Can we shift the way that we perhaps consolidate our freight, for example? And I know you've been looking at different innovations, not just around e-truck, but other areas where you can reduce emissions. What are areas we should be paying more attention again as an industry to drive this innovation?
I think the starting point for me is that there shouldn't be sacred cows. There shouldn't be, completely hard stop no, because as you rightly say, I'm talking to the investor for the infrastructure. Okay, I can maybe detour a little bit this part, and I can take some burden, and I can be flexible about my routing, because it's not an ideal world. If I want everything ideal for me, then maybe it's not ideal for the other players. So then what I'm looking for is the flexibility, being openness, being open-mindedness, so that it is not rocket science, but it's how we, as I said earlier, how we approach this in a smarter way and also inclusive way. I put myself into your position, and I would expect you to put yourself into my position. Then I think it will happen that we will come up with a good solution that works for everybody, all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You made a clear reference as well. You want to see less transactional relationships with your partners when it comes to sustainability. And now, on the one hand, that's in full understanding, as you said earlier, of higher investment costs, and there are initiatives like the ECG Green Cost Calculator, which are trying to address some aspects of this. But what's an example of how you think the industry can be less transactional? How can we approach this in a way that isn't just about the sums and the cost of differences, but drive something further?
Exactly. That is meeting with the point that I made in the presentation, that it is not anymore valid to go the way we used to do. We are not going to win the way we used to do in the past, and to move away from the next level of being only transactional is to have a long-term view, because when we talk about this investment, this is a long-term investment. Then how can we mutually agree and understand that this is a long-term partnership, and then we are ready for it, and then it takes away the short-term returns, but then we can start looking at more strategically, more creatively and innovatively for the future. Then that we set the foundation for a good relationship, and this will only excel in time, because we are not short-sighted and we are looking long-term, and then it brings the openness, it brings transparency, and it brings a kind of everybody taking their part in the game. Like I said, because it's a team game.
Levent, as we said up front, you've been very focused on actions, and that's what you want to see. Now, some of that comes from celebrating success and wins, and clearly you've had some, and you've shared a few on stage, be it the fleet in the UK, be it low emission tech. You've also shared some failures or some areas where you tried and it didn't work. Both are super important, I think, in this area. But what's something that you really are quite proud of, which you're grabbing hold on together with your suppliers, providers, as an initiative that we can take forward?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. It's not plain sailing. It's a rough road. It's a daring road. And we have cases that we won and cases that we succeeded, but we also have cases which we worked on them for more than a year or 18 months or 2 years, but still didn't get what we expected to. So one of the things, as I say, leaving the old behind, but one of the things I'm really proud about is that we could achieve a nurturing, a kind of cross-culture collaboration. So this is the case of that our inbound freight provider partner is now enabling my finished vehicle distribution partner to work in a collaborative manner, so that we can have a kind of opportunity to help our players, help our partners to work collaboratively to help each other. And this is the way real life collaboration that I'm after, partnership and collaboration. Although they're not a sister company, although they are not in the same sector, of course, logistics, but not in the same area of the logistics. But with us, three-party, working really, I mean, as a team spirit, that we could make it work, and it's working now. And now this is paving a new horizon for us to think broader. It's for us to think in a wider scale and more creatively that, oh, it can happen and it can work. So this is encouraging the teams, this is giving the motivation to the parties, and this is giving the belief that it's not just a nice talk, but it's real, the deeds that we are after, and we are really after what we said. But it has taken the time. But even if these green shoots of success, they are very important because they are the motivation for the future.
I think it's really a great point. And I think when we look at the state of the market and supply chain right now, it only reemphasizes that with diesel prices going up, fuel costs. Hopefully these success stories can be inspiration to really take definite action. And I want to finish on that note because, again, we keep coming back to what we can do. I love a vision. I think we all want to share that vision. Yeah. We want a vision of zero by this or that date, but also what can we do Monday? What can we do? So if we're going to talk about action points over, let's say, the next 6 months, year, that we can really point to, that you want to point to with your providers, what are one or two that you'd like to name,
exactly.
which we can follow up on?
Yeah, you know, I've been repeating myself a couple of times, and I will continue to repeat until I get to that point. There's the green corridors and especially net zero corridors is my ultimate target. But it's not just for the wording of it, and it's not from A to B. I mean, in the real sense, my key objective in the coming 6 to 12 months is to really achieve a real green corridor. If not net zero is too ambitious for 12 months. We have to be also realistic because the target should be achievable but also challengeable. But if it is only challengeable but not achievable, it doesn't take the people together with them. So, and I'm thinking about to achieving this corridor, not in A to B, which I have been telling about that interstate, I mean, in many states crossing the borders, and also on the land and on the sea. So that is my ultimate immediate objective for the coming period. And if 1 year from now, we can check it out. If it is really becoming a reality or not, then it's a test of the system.
Well, we will be definitely checking it. We'll also check in along the way. You know, we have our event in the UK coming up in a couple of months where you'll also be joining us. So not that we expect net zero by then, but I think we really want to harness these messages and track the success and be honest about the failing points or the points we can learn from
reality,
and work together. Levent, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It's always a pleasure. And keep up with us here on the Red Sofa. As I said, you can learn more about the session and presentation from Levent and others on sustainable logistics. More to come from Automotive Logistics Supply Chain Europe. And as mentioned, we'll be joining Levent again in the UK in June, so watch out for that.